In this video, we're actually going to look at a macromolecule known as carbohydrate. So carbohydrates are actually compounds that contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So these compounds that contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen are said to be what? To be saccharides. So carbohydrates are saccharide, or we can just say they're what? They're sugars. So these saccharides can either be polyhydroxyl aldehyde or polyhydroxyl ketone, depending with the additional functional group. So talking about the additional functional group, carbohydrates have the basic functional group and an additional functional group. So the basic functional group for carbohydrate is actually the group known as the hydroxyl group, while the additional functional group actually the aldehyde and the ketone. The hydroxyl is actually said to be the basic functional group, or known to be the basic functional group, because in every compound of carbohydrate that you're going to find, you will always find the hydroxyl group. And the aldehyde and ketone are said to be additional functional group because in addition to the hydroxyl group, you will find the aldehyde functional group or a ketone functional group. Not in all structures for carbohydrates you are going to find the aldehyde and ketone, but in all structures for carbohydrate you will find the hydroxyl group. Apart from that, we should also know that carbohydrates are actually what? Hydrate compounds of carbon. So the hydrate part comes from the fact that both hydrogen and oxygen are in the ratio of 2 to 1 as they appear in water. So let us actually look at a simple example here. So we have this chain. So let me actually draw an exos sugar. So we have this 1 2 3 4 5 6. So we have this exos sugar, which is an aldehyde. So we have glucose here. It has H, hydroxyl, 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 H, and you have the terminal here, the alcohol or H. So in this exos sugar known as glucose, let us forget about the additional functional group here. So if we look at this carbon or this carbon or this carbon, we'll find that this carbon, they're actually attached to hydrogen and hydroxyl group. So the hydrogen on this carbon, we're going to find that we have 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, which is in the ratio of 2 to 1. This is actually the same ratio in which hydrogen and oxygen appear in water. So because of this reason, we say that carbohydrates are actually what? Carbohydrates are actually hydrate compounds of carbon. Apart from that, we also have to know that carbohydrates have the general formula, which is CX open brackets H2O close Y, where X and Y are actually variables and they can sometimes be the same, sometimes they will differ. So this is the general formula for what? For carbohydrate. So let us look at the classification for carbohydrate. So carbohydrates are actually classified according to the number of saccharide units they have. So carbohydrates having 1 saccharide unit are actually said to be monosaccharides. We call them monosaccharides. Carbohydrates with 2 saccharide units are actually said to be disaccharides. And carbohydrates with 3 to 10 saccharide units are called or are said to be oligosaccharides, while carbohydrates with more than 10 saccharide units are said to be what? Polysaccharides. So this is actually how we can classify carbohydrate. We can classify them according to the number of saccharide units, and these are actually the classification for carbohydrate. So a carbohydrate with one saccharide unit is a monosaccharide, and it cannot be hydrolyzed into simpler carbohydrate, while carbohydrate with two saccharide units, between 3 to 10 saccharide units and more than 10 saccharide units, can be hydrolyzed because they are not made of one saccharide unit.